The tavern was alive with a buzz of activity. Barmaidens scurry across the floors delivering meals and ale alike to customers. A group of Exilians were already drunk out of their minds, laughing loudly, telling jokes and flirting with the bar maidens. A vision box sat above the pillar by the bar in clear view of all the patrons, reporting on relevant news. 2 frequent patrons sat by the bar. An old Ostriger was drinking a greenish-blue drink, the other a Kendith drank their famous red fire wine. "Report," the old Ostriger asks. A nod came from the Kendith. The Ostriger gestured towards the barkeep that was polishing a glass. The barkeep walked towards the vision box, increasing its volume to the maximum. The Kendith began to recall his experience. "I am currently assigned to one of the human bases in the sector pretending to be a merchant. At first I was only allowed to sell my merchandise outside, near the walls of the base. It took me a solid week to find customers and even more to establish friendly relations with them. A human was finally introduced to my shop. David was his name. He was a soldier of the human empire, they called him a sergeant. He bought a green bean, finding it weird and intriguing according to him, he says. The Kendith drank a sip of mead before continuing, 3 years of continuous, coincidental meetings, before I finally was accepted as an acquaintance of David. Soon enough more and more humans began to converse with me. I requested additional funds to rent a market space inside the walls. 2 more years of tireless work, I became a friend of David and was finally invited to what the humans call the Guy's Night. Me and 13 human male went to a tavern they called Green Thumb Pub. When asked why the name, they simply said that the owner was a florist turned bartender. 6 hours of drinking their strong mead, honestly it was a miracle I survived the ordeal. All the while we watched one of their sports. The Kendith paused, he stared into an empty space for some time. The Ostriger shaked him to bring him back. "I'm sorry," the Kendith says. "Take your time, you are home now," the Ostriger says, comforting the Kendith. "I was at the corner table like that one," the Kendith says, pointing to a luxurious velvet seat at the corner of the tavern with a few nobles drinking with drapes hanging. It was not as luxurious as that. It was more of a room, a door separated us from the rest of the pub with a large vision box like that, pointing at the vision box. But far larger. It showed a gruesome scene. I thought it was some sort of war as I saw many humans on a green field. In one moment they were still as statues. With a shout, they clashed using their body trying to stop the other humans, and I swear I saw one of them bleed, he recalls. He took another sip, so did the Ostriger, before continuing. They had no armor, they were fighting for some kind of oblong-shaped thing. I saw one human getting tackled by 3 men, he kept running, dragging the 3 men behind him like they were nothing. And what's more, the men with me cheered for the human in orange every time he dived behind a certain line. Not to mention they did that for the duration we drank. Long silence followed, only broken when the Ostriger spoke. "You have done well, soldier. Thank you for why dash," he was cut off. "That was not the worst part, sir," Kendith says. "I believe that the humans are preparing for war against all of us," the Kendith continued. The Ostriger was taken aback. "What do you mean?" he asks. The Kendith turned to him, his stare unnerving. "I saw it, their PS5, he says. "What does it mean?" The Ostriger asks. "I do not know, but I think it stands for Practice Simulation 5, which means they have 4 other iterations," the Kendith explains. The Ostriger was shocked by the revelation. "Speak, soldier," the Ostriger says angrily, losing his composure. "When I awoke in the morning after our Guy's Night, I was in a small room with 2 two-story beds and a couple of lockers at the end of the room next to the door. I thought they found out I was a spy and was about to be tortured. Fearing for my life I rushed to the door, but my mind was still muddled, the world was still spinning and a nasty headache prevented a quick escape. Before I knew it, David and a friend came into the room. I thought I was done for. But surprisingly they greeted me with joy. They were talking about something, some kind of Halo, Doom, or Mass Effect, something along those lines. I was dragged into a room with many other humans. A large vision box took everyone's attention. There I saw it, they were killing our people. The Kendith says, his eyes began to water. It was one man fighting hordes of us, calling us demons. But I knew they were not. The one-eyed Evora flying species of Dadan 3, the technological six-legged warriors of the Scretan, us Kendith complete with our back spikes, and your people, he says turning to the Ostriger. Complete with your distinct two curved horns and large muscular body. The Kendith stops, taking a massive drink, his fingers shivering, he continued, they killed us, with blades, guns, fire, even our own limbs as weapons. They were practicing killing us in the most brutal ways possible, and they were laughing, they smiled as I watched them tear a Ostriger apart. Are you certain of this? The Ostriger asks. I cannot forget, the blood, the gore, it still haunts me in the night. I still hear the shrieks, the laughter, the music, oh that music like thunder singing a melody of death and despair. The Kendith answers, clutching his ears. That is why, sir, I am begging you, please let me retire. I do not know how long I can hold, he pleaded. I will forward this to command, they will want your testimony in person, the Ostriger says. A nod came from the Kendith. The barkeep poured another glass of mead and he drank it in one big swing. As the Ostriger was leaving he put down a coin and turned to the barkeep, give him what he needs. A nod came from the barkeep. Meanwhile at the human base. Hey, now that I think about it, doesn't the Kendith seem so similar to imps? John says as he was playing a game. Huh, would you look at that? They do seem similar, eerily so, David says. Hey, didn't we show this to your Kendith friend, did he seem offended? John asks. Well, David pauses. Now that I think about it I never saw him after Guy's night, David says. Could you imagine if this started a war? John jokingly asks, a chuckle slowly turned to silence. John turned towards David, pausing his game. It wouldn't, right? John asks. Suddenly alarms sounded throughout the base, warning. Sector under attack.